So I want to encourage you to think of these assignments as little adventures, explorations where you're going to explore what you're learning and play with the ideas, and don't get too caught up in perfection. So I've asked you to draw a collection of objects in a little composition, and there's a pretty cool example there in the material. You can copy that one if you'd like, or you can play around with your own ideas. And this will lead us towards the next section of the studies where we're going to be exploring methods of quick perspective rather than formal perspective. So we're starting here. We have our horizon line. I want you to start every drawing knowing where your horizon line is. Is it in the middle of the scene, at the bottom of the scene, at the top of the scene? If it's in the middle, we're looking straight on at the object from some vantage. If it's down below, we're looking on top of the object. If it's up above, we're looking from beneath the object. So here it's, slightly higher than mid. We're in the air probably. So let's start with a cube here. And as soon as I draw this line, I'm establishing where I think my vanishing point will be. If this is the bottom corner of that object, then this point wants to connect to that same vanishing point. Now, if I'm trying to draw a square, I need to make a guesstimation. How deep is this? Is that a square? It feels a little long to me. I try to imagine this corner line falling into space and where it would hit the ground. So let's say that's our square. Then on this side, again, as soon as I draw a line, I'm inferring where I expect my vanishing point to be. And then I'm going to connect both of those points. And again, I'm looking for a square. Where is that square? Let's let this thing fall into space and we'll see where it hits. Okay, that looks pretty good. Now this far corner goes back to that vanishing point. This corner, which is now feeling a little bit narrow to me, I'm going to push it over slightly. I'm going to clean this up a little. So again, this is a sketch. Sketching is a process. There's our cube. Okay. So I'm going to draw another cube out here. And now I want to show you how to measure in perspective. If I want to get another cube out here, the same depth as this one in perspective, all I need to do is run a diagonal through the middle of this line. And where it hits the bottom line, that is equal from here to here. It's a great visual measuring device within perspective. Again, I'm just going to send that back. Send that back. I'm constantly projecting these lines and constantly correcting myself as I go. So when you're laying out your drawing to begin with, work with light lines. Don't work with heavy, dark lines. Work with light lines. Get things kind of set up the way you want them to be. I'm going to go ahead and do another one, another cube out here. And again, I'm going to just keep checking myself. Am I going to the horizon line? Now, I've asked you to draw a collection of forms, not just a bunch of cubes. So I can either start to modify a couple of these, like maybe I'm going to take this guy and turn it into a wedge. And if it comes up right to the horizon line, that means it's going to be a horizontal line, like so. If it were to come up above the horizon line, then it would want to do that. Right? And you can see how I can constantly be carving these shapes and figuring out, just what I want this form to do. I'm drawing, this is a new tool for me. This is a digital sketch tool. And so I'm getting used to it, and you're watching me kind of, exploring and figuring it out. So enjoy. So there's a shape. I really liked in the composition that they've given us as an example how things are set up and fitted together. Um, but it takes some thought to come up with a composition like that. So I'm gonna come in on top of this cube right here. I'm gonna draw a cone right there. And I'm going to cut this cube with a notch. Every point I'm projecting back. Okay. I'm going to add what should I add? I'm going to add a cylinder right here. And maybe just a simple, I'll do a simple wedge out here. Always referring back, where is the vanishing point? Okay. So once I get, something laid out that I'm kind of, having fun with, then I'm going to start to show some shade and shadow. And for me, that's the fun part, bringing the thing to life with light. Okay, there's a collection of objects, for better or for worse. Again, really, I want you to play, I want you to explore. If you have to do it a few times, do it a few times. No big deal. Just keep playing with it. This is all about getting familiar with perspective. Okay, so I'm going to come back in and start to add some shading to this. And since this surface and this surface and this surface are all in the same plane and theoretically of the same material, I'm going to treat them with the same level of shade, same intensity. And likewise, this piece over here. Where's the light coming from? That's a whole other sort of level of consideration. But let's just say the light is coming from somewhere over here, over our right shoulder. Okay? So this thing is going to cast a shadow down, like so. And it's going to be shaded here. Right? And our cone is going to be and shading a cone. You're going to kind of work from the top of the cone down with your hatching. That's one way to do it. Another way to do it is, and you can actually mix them, is to come in and use radial lines. Recognize that as soon as they go above the horizon, they're going to radiate back in the other direction. Just curve down from up here and curve up down below. Now, the way I've sketched that cone right now, it's glass because we can see the ellipse on the other side. So I can either let that be fine, or I can come in and I can sort of, clean that up. Don't get too worried about that stuff. And then on the bottom, I can just darken the shading so that that line kind of vanishes, right? Again, this is a sketch, and the point of this sketch is to study form, right? In preparation for experimenting with architecture. So I've probably got some shadow coming across here. Plotting shadow is a whole process of its own, and it's going to be a little bit complicated in this case. And we'll spend some time talking about that. Again, my light is coming down, cutting back, going back in perspective, and then cutting back something like that. And then cutting back again. This shape is going to complicate that a little bit, but I'm not going to get too caught up in that right now. And I have a 3D modeling program called SketchUp that I will introduce you to. It is an amazing tool for plotting out the way shadows work. Remember that shadow is usually darker than shade. Notice how I can darken certain edges to emphasize the form. I want you to play with this stuff and enjoy it, okay? Experiment.